I understand that it's 104 degrees in a lot of places of the country. Welcome to San Francisco, where it is August. That actually was supposed to be the Golden Gate Bridge, where I just panned my camera back over here. We're making some kind of weird U-turn maneuver. You can't see it though, because it's August in San Francisco. It's cold, it's windy. I just got out of that water, and I'm ready to talk about Marques Sigle. What a game last night for the 49ers rookie safety out of Kansas State. And the big question now is, will this guy, just like Malik Mustafa the year before him, become a rookie starter at the safety position? Because the 49ers obviously have a new defensive coordinator, a returning defensive coordinator in Robert Salah. He very clearly has a type at safety. Jair Brown saw diminishing play to close last year. Malik Mustafa was awesome to close last year. And although Mustafa is currently hurt, when he does return, might the 49ers be dead set on pairing two extremely athletic safeties? You got to look at Marques Sigle last night. 4.3740 is real, and that was the fastest time for any safety in the 2025 draft class. Unlike somebody like Nick Martin, who's also really athletic, Marques Sigle played within himself, was controlled yesterday with the way that he performed out on the field. Nick Martin was missing tackles left and right. He obviously had juice, but he didn't quite have the ability to play that disciplined level of football that you would like to see. And I'm sure that Nick Martin is going to get better, but Marques Sigle seemed to already have it last night. Cable cars, Buena Vista Cafe, home of the Irish coffee. We're working our way up Hyde Street. Maybe we'll watch the sunshine in a different neighborhood of the city, but I doubt it. It looks like the Carl the Fog is what they call the fog has fully taken over here in San Francisco. Oh, well, at least we'll have even lighting as we make our drive. So Nick Martin is definitely somebody who's going to need many more snaps here, especially over the course of the preseason when the snaps can't hurt the 49ers, to be able to start corralling his athleticism, his ability to move, his ability to play violently, corralling it and playing disciplined football. Somebody like Marques Sigle seemed to already show that ability yesterday. Now, it's only one game. That's very important to note. But I had deja vu to last year when we saw Malik Mustafa in his preseason debut. And we said, oh, the fourth round pick, Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest, he might have a chance to do something for the 49ers his rookie season. This might be a guy who can see the field right away. And from the very first stop that we saw from Marques Sigle yesterday, it came downhill after a check down pass to RJ Harvey. That's the rookie running back for the Denver Broncos, their starting running back. And we saw Marques Sigle come down, square hips, good form, made sure that he wasn't going to get juked, didn't get overly excited. I immediately thought to myself, this is a mature player, especially considering the fact that he missed OTAs. He had an injury during the spring, and a lot of times a rookie will be behind the eight ball early on in training camp if that's the case, and it wasn't the case for Marques Sigle. Finished up with 7 tackles. I went up to him in the locker room, and we talked a little bit about the speed of the NFL game, and one thing that really stood out to me about his answer was that his strategy to handle the speed adjustment moving from college to the pros was to just play fearlessly and say, you know what, mistakes are going to happen. And there was a mistake that happened. Thankfully for Marques, it was nullified by a penalty, but he missed a tackle on the spin move. I think it came in the second quarter, either the second or the third quarter. It wasn't a pretty play for Sigle. Took a chance in the open field, whiffed, and it didn't look good on tape. But what he told me was that if he just focuses on playing fast, down in and down out, he'll get the mistakes out of his system. And I love that aggressive mentality. I feel that that's the same mentality that Malik Mustafa rode to a starting position last year. Malik played fast, played like a cannonball, ended up as statistically the best cover safety in all of football as a rookie. He could also blitz. We know that with Malik. And I think with Marques Sigle, you look at the physical measurements, he's slightly undersized, So he's under the 50th percentile when it comes to the arm length. I think slightly under 31 inches. He's about 5'11". He's about 199, 200 pounds. So he's not the biggest safety, but again, this is the archetype of the players that the 49ers added on the back end of their defense. Slightly smaller players who are absolute cannonballs when it comes to athleticism. Upton Stout's another one of them. Nick Martin himself is another one of them. Now, all of these guys are at different stages of their ability to corral that energy, that athleticism, and deliver it in a disciplined way on the football field. We haven't gotten to see Upton Stout do that yet because he was dealing with something minor yesterday, so the 49ers held him out as a precaution. Hopefully we get to see it this next week against the Raiders, but he's been really impressive in practice. We got to see the first sign from Marques Sigle yesterday, and it was good. We saw from Martin that he needs more work. And different rookies are going to be at different levels of development, especially given that they played different amounts in college. Somebody like Nick Martin played a ton 2 years ago, but only played 5 games last year due to a knee injury. So that probably puts him a little bit further behind the 8 ball. The way that I look at the 49ers safety position now, though, I delineate between guys who were here when Steve Wilks was the defensive coordinator and guys who came after that. And Jair Brown is the one safety he was at it when Steve Wilks was the coordinator. Steve Wilks got up on the table and advocated for Jair Brown in 2023 when the 49ers picked the Penn State product in the 3rd round. We're rolling down Russian Hill now. That is Foggist. That's Carl the Fog. That's Pacific Heights. Completely shrouded in it here in San Francisco. So sorry wherever you are if it's a little too hot right now, because here it's the complete opposite. But Jair was definitely a Wilks endorsed safety. Jair struggled big time in 2024. There were probably a multitude of factors behind that. But one of them was that the 49ers changed defensive leadership, and it didn't really meld with the skill set that he brought to the table. He was also dealing with an injury, maybe a couple injuries last year that he told us about. Anyway, ever since Robert Salah has gotten here in 2025, there has been a almost maniacal focus on traits-based safeties. So Jair Brown is not a traits-based safety. He ran a 4.6 or close to 4.7 40. The big knock on Jair coming out of Penn State was, yeah, he might have really good ball skills. He might have really good instincts, but at some point, is he too slow to effectively play the center field position in the NFL? That was the question. I'm just relaying what was said at the time. And I think in the Steve Wilks system in 2023, when he worked himself into the mix as a starter, he was able to firmly answer some of the questions in the positive. And in 2024, some of the athletic deficiencies started to show up on tape. Nick Sorensen might not have been as good at disguising them. So we know what the book on Jair Brown is, and we know that he's on his 3rd defensive coordinator in 3 years in the NFL. The safeties that the 49ers have picked up, either through free agency or through the NFL draft, ever since Robert Salah got here or post Steve Wilks, so 2024, maybe the 49ers were already reverting back to the Robert Salah archetype after 2023. But the safeties they've picked up in the past 2 years have all been athletic beasts. Go from Malik Mustafa, an absolute cannonball in the 2024 draft, to Jason Pinnock in the 2025 free agency cycle. That's a 4.4 guy who has more length than somebody like Marques Sigle, to Sigle himself in this draft, the fastest safety in the class. This is the polar opposite of what the 49ers got in Jair Brown as far as athletic profile goes. So it stands to reason, with Robert Salah putting his fingerprints all over this 49ers defense, it stands to reason that the 49ers would prefer to have 2 ultra-athletic safeties if 2 ultra-athletic safeties are their best football players. And I think that we took a big step in that direction watching the 49ers yesterday when Marques Sigle looked like he belonged against Denver's ones. Richie Grant, who is the veteran the 49ers picked up alongside Jason Pinnock wasn't available to play. Minor injury. That opened the door for Siegel to start. And I thought that he looked really, really solid for the 49ers. So if there's a development pertaining to the first stringers from week one of the preseason, there weren't many because the 49ers didn't play their starters. But if there's a development that might pertain to the first stringers, at least at some point down the road, it's going to be that. And I've said this multiple times before over the past couple of weeks. I don't expect anything to be immediate. I don't expect anything to be like, oh my God, here comes Marques Sigle. He's going to start week one. This is still very early in the process. There's over 2 weeks before cutdown day. There are 2 preseason games. He's going to have to earn the trust of Robert Salah on a repeated basis in these preseason games. And then maybe even through game week install stuff. That's what Malik Mustafa had to do last year. Malik didn't become a starter, I think, until week 4, I want to say. Maybe even week 5 or 6, because they played the Seattle Seahawks and he had an interception where he trailed out of bounds early in that game. And that was the coming out party, really, for Malik and for Renardo Green, a couple rookies starting. So that was an October game, early October. That's typically how you have to view the House of Prime Rib. We're passing it right now. Just missed it. There it is. You guys see it? The iconic House of Prime Rib. I'm trying to get a reservation at the House of Prime Rib. It's impossible. If anybody can hook me up, find my email on my X page. Send me how to get a reservation at the House of Prime Rib. The place is legendary. It's on Van Ness, but then you look at online and you try to get a reservation and it says the next one's available on like November 12th at 9:30 p.m. And I don't want to wait until November to eat prime rib. So we'll wait a little bit longer, I guess, but maybe one of you will be able to help me out. Anyway, let's talk about the whole secondary, because yesterday was great evaluation grounds for at least the depth of the secondary, maybe the first string if Marques Sigle does knock on the door of a starting position this year. That's to be determined moving forward. All I can tell you is that he looked really good in space. He missed 1 tackle, but it didn't count because that was nullified by penalty. And it looked like he was able to bring his speed on paper to the gridiron. And I loved his answer when I asked him about that. And he said, it's because I'm not afraid of making a mistake. Guys who go out there this time of the year and are fearless and see an opportunity and are willing to roll the dice to grab that opportunity, instead of guys that are going out there timid, thinking too much. I mean, there's 2 types of personality, right? And usually you have to be wired in the way to attack the way that Marques Sigle attacked his first preseason game. And I think he's wired that right way. You talk to people at Kansas State. He transferred from an FCS school, so he came in hungry. I think that a good work ethic has been built into this guy. Because he's not a very large athlete, especially relative to others at the safety position, because he's under that 50th percentile, I think that put somewhat of a chip on Marques Sigle's shoulder. We know that Upton Stout's even shorter at 5'8", so that's a whole different level, but it definitely has put a chip on Upton Stout's shoulder. But the athleticism doesn't lie. And I think that's where Robert Salah is going. Ever since Salah coached as a quality control in Seattle for the Legion of Boom defense, I think that left a huge imprint on Robert, because Earl Thomas was the eraser safety for those Seattle Seahawks teams. And Earl Thomas is obviously going to be a Hall of Famer, is one of the best to ever do it. We're talking somebody who had 4.3 speed, great physicality, and awesome awareness and awesome instincts. And because of that, the Seahawks defense was able to rest easy, because they knew nobody would ever get past Earl Thomas, and they knew that he could probably go sideline to sideline and erase any potential positive gains. So ever since Salah was part of a coaching staff, won a Super Bowl in Seattle with the Legion of Boom secondary, and with Earl Thomas specifically playing that safety position, I think that he's been really enamored with traits-based safeties. Now, it's going to be really hard to find an next Earl Thomas, because it's not all about the 4.3. It's about finding the instincts on top of the 4.3, but you're going to want to take your chances with guys who have the 4.3. There's San Francisco City Hall. Nice little look at it. You're going to want to take your chances with somebody that does run the 4.3 because you can't teach that part of it, right? You either have the speed or you don't. And the 49ers obviously have it with Marques Sigle. So I think that's where Salah's going with Jason Pinnock. That's where he's going with Marques Sigle. He inherited Malik Mustafa, who played so well. So I think he automatically fits what the 49ers doing. As of right now, I know Jair has the ankle flare-up going on right now. So that's why he was unavailable to play yesterday. So we'll see a little bit more from him over the course of this preseason. 2 more games to go and the Raiders joint practices to go. Hopefully he's back by this week. The 49ers do anticipate getting a lot of players back tomorrow. Hopefully we see that from Malik Mustafa, because I would love to see this entire competition flesh itself out. Right now it is Jair and it is Jason Pinnock at the top of the healthy depth chart, but we know that things can change, and we know that things can change in a hurry, and we know that this is a training camp where things are not set in stone. I mean, we've had Robert Salah come out and say that there might be up to 8 new starters on this defense. And if you look at the depth chart and you do the math at the same time, that means that Robert Salah is indirectly saying that both of the safety spots are available. We had figured that Malik wouldn't start week 1 with the ACL, so we'd figured on Jason Pinnock. But the only way that you get to 8 is if both safety spots have different starters than they did last year, because there are only 11 starters on defense, and we know that Nick Bosa, we know that Fred Warner, and we know that Deommodore Lenoir are all starters. So that's your margin for error. Everything else, according to Robert Salah, is up for grabs. Beyond that, the depth cornerback spots are up for grabs. And that anything beyond Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green. And I think that when you look at what happened yesterday, you saw a lot of gifted cornerbacks, especially like physically gifted, like Darrell Luter. And you saw experience out there as well with Dallas Flowers, who has played several years in the NFL, but obviously coming off of an injury. And Trey Brown, who has played some time, seen some success in the NFL, but has also been hurt. You also saw youth, but I go back to the physical gifts when I talk about the youth. Somebody like Jake Robinson out of BYU. He made a really nice tackle yesterday. We don't talk about it much, but Jacob Robinson ran a 4.39 40 at his pro day. Jacob Robinson is a tremendously athletic player. And the one thing that I was worried about with him was how would he handle NFL level physicality? I think he's added some muscle over the course of his few months in the 49ers building. And because of that, he's delivering big contact in an NFL game. And you don't often see that out of, first-year cornerbacks. Remember when Akello Witherspoon, he was a 3rd-round pick for the 49ers in 2017. He was getting run over in practice. He wouldn't lay in the wood in practice the way that we saw Jacob Robinson with that big hit near the line of scrimmage yesterday. So the 49ers have changed their type of cornerback, right? They've gone for the dogs recently. And they feel that somebody like Dallas Flowers coming back from an Achilles injury is a dog. They feel like somebody like Trey Brown, who was so good in press coverage when he was healthy with Seattle, is a dog. I will say that the pecking order yesterday definitely had Dallas Flowers and Darrell Luter Jr. above Trey Brown, because Trey Brown wasn't in the game until much later against the 2nd stringers and the 3rd stringers. We saw Luter at the very start at corner, and we saw Dallas Flowers, and there was a mixed bag for both. I wasn't sure until today, but Darrell Luter appears to be at fault for the wide open busted coverage touchdown that the Denver Broncos scored. I didn't want to say anything at the moment yesterday because I wasn't sure. I needed to watch the tape, but it really did look like it was Darrell Luter's fault. But he also delivered one of the most aesthetically pleasing plays, one of the most athletic plays of the game for the 49ers, and it goes back to traits. This guy has a 41-inch vertical leap, and he's got really long arms. I mean, he's a super plus athlete in both of those categories, and we saw him leap up and knock away a potential touchdown from Cortland Sutton, who's a 6'4", $92 million man. So Luter, he's been around for a couple of years, but he's only been able to play special teams. He's got an opportunity now at a very important depth cornerback spot. And Dallas Flowers, I didn't think played terribly yesterday. The Trent Sherfield touchdown, you almost have to tip your cap to Trent and to Jarrett Stidham, who threw that football perfectly. I mean, sometimes you could play good coverage, but the perfect throw is going to beat the good coverage, and I thought that's what happened with Dallas Flowers. We're making a turn now in the mission. There we are. Look at that. Casper is turning right. We're going to be making our way. I'm getting some good food right now. Can't wait for this. I think we're going to get Mediterranean tonight. Should be awesome. So Dallas Flowers also, he missed one tackle on an outside zone run where he took a bad angle, and then he made up for it later with a tackle for loss in the backfield. So I thought that it was a very similar type of play that he saw once and he failed on, and the second time he got it, I thought that was a nice adjustment from Dallas Flowers. I talk a lot about Russell Gage and the hell that he's been through. It's been 2 years since he's played, or it had been 2 years since he'd played, and he got that catch yesterday, the torn patellar tendon for the 49ers veteran receiver. Well, Dallas Flowers has had a rough go of it too. This was a really good corner for the Colts, tore his Achilles, returned last year, but wasn't quite the same player, ended up getting cut, and he was on a Gus Bradley defense, and Gus is now obviously with the 49ers, but usually an extra year away from the Achilles can give the guy a true boost as far as acceleration and burst. You get some of that back in that next year. So the cornerback battle is very, very much alive for the 49ers. We're about to get dropped off. Anyway, Eagle. Remember the name because yesterday was impressive, and I think it's open season for the 49ers right now. There are many, many possibilities for the 49ers when it comes to the permutations of their secondary, especially outside of Diamaro Lenore and Renardo Green. There are many possibilities at the safety position, but I like to read the clues. I like to read the tea leaves, and I really, really believe that Robert Salah wants athletic specimens at his safety position. And guess what? Marques Sigle, fastest safety in the 2025 draft class, does fit that bill. Good performance for him. Good performance from Casper. We made it. I will talk to you guys very soon.